So folks, this next session, we're going to do somewhat of a fireside chat type scheme to talk about this entity called the Montgomery Internet Exchange point. We're going to get into some of its history, some of its current modes of operating at the present time. I'm going to allow the two participants to introduce themselves, but I'm sure those of you who read your email, you've gotten more than enough data on them. We did it in this format to highlight the individual who and his team are primarily responsible for its operation, but we also brought on and decided to have one of the exchange point members and someone whose livelihood from an internet service provider's perspective depends on it. What we'd like to do is kind of go through, after their introductions, some general questions, and then we're going to open the floor up for those of you who may have questions. With that said, whoever wants to go first.
You go first.
Okay, my name is Josh Lambert. I'm the CEO of Alabama Lightwave. We're a fixed wireless broadband provider serving customers in Bibb, Chilton, and Choctaw counties. So this is going to be central and extreme rural West Alabama, nearly in Mississippi. We specialize in that last mile connectivity journey of getting grandma to her Netflix, getting your remote worker to their jump desktop session. We live firmly in that last part of the connectivity journey and are delighted to be here today.
Yeah, I am Tony Porterfield, Chief Technology Officer for the City of Montgomery. And can you guys hear me back there? Now you can? Okay. Well, again, I'm Tony Porterfield, Chief Technology Officer for the City of Montgomery, and the City of Montgomery owns and operates Montgomery Internet Exchange. So that's why we're here. Have a brief slide, about 7 slides I'm going to go through, give you a brief history of what it is all about, when it got started, and if you have any questions during the slides, you can ask that as well. So, so Montgomery Internet Exchange, or MIX, or MGMix, has a bunch of different names, but we call it MIX. It was established in 2016. It was a partnership between the City of Montgomery and Maxwell Air Force Base. I think Colonel Swash was the guy who actually got it started. So he and, at the time, Mayor Strange decided that they wanted to create this entity called an Internet Exchange, and they didn't know anything about it. So they got the right people in place to create it, and then it was created. So that was the birth of the Montgomery Internet Exchange. So the Montgomery Internet Exchange was the very first internet exchange in Alabama. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but it was the very first, and it's located at 445 Dexter Avenue. But a lot of you don't know that we actually have 3 locations, 4 if you count Auburn. So we have at 445 Dexter Avenue. We also have 25 Washington Avenue, and we have 9101 Communication Way. That is our communication building. So I just want to get that across. It's more than just one location. Our very first customer in the IX was Akamai, and that's because General Swash had a relationship with Akamai. So they actually put their equipment in there, and they were our very first customer. But once we got it up and running, it was WOW, Alabama State University, Auburn University, Montgomery, Hurricane Electric, and Montgomery County Commission. So they are still in there. Some of them are not, but I'll get to that. So next, we started looking at what was in there, how long it's been in there, and from 2016 to 2022, it's pretty much didn't change. It was just there, not doing much. we had some players that was bad players. So when I got there in 2023, my goal was to go through the IX, go through the players, determine our next steps. And we needed a change. So that's what we did. With the onset of Mayor Reed coming on board, he is really big on technology, moving the city forward. I am really big on technology and moving the city forward. So that was a relationship that just gelled. And now we are in a situation where we are doing some things to make MGMix a whole lot better. So in 2023, in comes the new CTO. And the way all this got started was in April of 2023, I got a call and I was asked would I like to apply for the new position created called the Chief Technology Officer for the City of Montgomery. And I had worked for the city before, so I knew how it operated, and I really wasn't interested. But I interviewed. I think once I met the people on my interview session, the first one was the board, he was on there. So I made it to the interview with the mayor, and he asked me would I be interested in taking it. And I said, one condition, if I can do it the way that I want to do it. If I'm not leashed, I have complete control of how I want to do it. So he was like, yeah, you don't have a leash. And then the Internet Exchange came up, and he asked me, did I know anything about it? And I knew about it, excuse me, but I knew that it wasn't really doing anything. So my first thing was to make that a part of my agenda, which I did. And I got there, looked at it, determined what needs to be done, and put a plan in process. So where we are now, right? Currently, like I said, some of the players were removed. Some of them are still there. But right now, MGMix is completely owned by the City of Montgomery. I teamed up and partnered with companies like NetTellus, Albix, Alabama Lightwave, who is here today, Microsoft, Dell, Cam Technologies, C-Spire, Cisco, WOW, AT&T, Spectrum, and Unity Fiber. And those are a lot of partners that are located in our Internet Exchange. So think of the leverage that you have if you were a part of that, right? This is something that Josh is taking complete advantage of, and I don't blame him at all. So the more we can help you by doing this, the more we can have more partners to actually extend the fabric of the Montgomery Internet Exchange. So one of the things we did, the first thing I did was removed all the old equipment, and we were upgraded to support up to 400 gigabytes of throughput. We have two 48-port switches, two 48-port 100 gig switches in there right now. We also have two city-owned 100 gig fiber connection over to Albix. And we also have two 100 gig switches, two 48-port 100 gig switches over in Albix. That's right, Andrew? Yeah, so we are well connected, and we have the footprint to actually extend a lot more than what we have right now. We also became a board member of ACE, and ACE is here today. So made a lot of changes over the past 2 years, 24 months, however you want to call it, but it's been a challenge because a lot of people are not really familiar with what an Internet Exchange is, and I get a bunch of questions about that. So that's the end of my slide, and I really want to just say, look, if you guys got any questions about what we do, I'm not here all day, but the time that I'm here, you can ask me any question and I can give you an answer. We are also planning on extending our membership by adding more companies that are in the process right now of signing contracts. So we're on the move. It's not what it was before. And I'm looking forward to actually building it to the point where we can start putting members at all 3, 4 locations if we can. So again, thank you. That's a brief history of the Montgomery Internet Exchange. I know I went through it pretty fast, but I really don't like wasting people's time, so I want to get straight to the question.
Just briefly, I'm sorry, just briefly, a quick question.
Yes,
So you
sir.
said signing on partners. What's the financial situation there? Is it competitive bids, or how is that? I saw you had a list of different partners.
Yeah, we have a list of different partners. Okay, so if you're a partner with Internet Exchange, that means you're offering a service to the City of Montgomery, to the community of the City of Montgomery. So that is the partnership. So you are a member in the exchange offering a service to the city, offering a service to the public.
So basically, you're being certified by the City of Montgomery.
Pretty much.
To provide X, Y, and Z.
Right, yeah. For regular members who are just transporting data, that's a different module. So that's a different kind of model that we use. But partners are really partners like Microsoft, Dell. They offer different services to the City of Montgomery, meaning the public of the City of Montgomery, and they donate computers, they donate hardware, stuff like that. So it's kind of like a handshake, basically. Yeah.
Do you have a-
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Quick question. I thought you said in one of the first slides that you had multiple locations.
We do.
Oh, okay. I was looking on your peering DB record. It only shows one
Mhm.
location. Maybe you might want to put those in so that we know where.
Yeah, they're in there, but I think you have to dig for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the main location is 445 Dexter Avenue.
The RSA.
Yes.
Dexter Avenue, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's RSA around here.
Yeah, right. And one of our big partners is Alabama Lightwave, and I'll turn it over to Josh so he can tell you what he's doing if there's no more questions. Andrew, you had a question back there? All right.
All right, well, I'll take the floor here for a minute. So we are, as I mentioned before, in the last mile broadband delivery space. There has never been a more competitive time than today to be in that space. You have fiber providers all over the place that are building and building and building, and they're building over the top of each other. In our city of Centerville right now, we have 2 fiber providers operating in the area and a third getting ready to come in under the BEAD program. So for someone like me, that's fierce competition, both from the typical land-based internet delivery world and also from the fixed wireless side, where you have companies like Starlink, T-Mobile, Verizon, and others that are meeting the consumer in their living room to solve that last mile broadband problem. That means if you are a provider like us, you are looking for ways to differentiate yourselves, right? This is a large ocean. There's sharks everywhere. How do you be different when everybody is doing basically the same thing, which is broadband? So what I want you to do for just a minute is step back. Let's get out of the technical nitty-gritty for just a second and think about how your average Alabamian thinks and what they prioritize and what their values are. We are a fiercely independent people that live in this state. We value our ability to operate on our own, to run our own castles, to run our own kingdoms, to be independent from the man out there in Wall Street. That really is, it drives everybody. We drive our pickups, we have our shotguns, shotgun, rifle, four-wheel drive, right? Hank Williams Jr. That is how an Alabamian thinks. So as an ISP, you want to meet them where they are. The MGMix gave us a very compelling narrative that we can deliver to our customers that makes us different than them. Because we tell them, traditionally, internet providers take you to major connectivity hubs to get you where you want to go. So we have street names that we know if you're in this room, places like 56 Marietta Street, right? Where all the data ends up back at these central locations that are out of state. Well, for your fiercely independent Alabamian, that is unacceptable. It doesn't jive with the way we think. We've outsourced our connectivity to the big cities. We think that's a problem. So starting with not the practical benefits, which we'll touch on in just a second, but the narrative benefits of the MGMix in a very crowded world cannot be understated. We are giving people an expressway. We tell them, think like an empty 280 or an empty I-65, not on a beach Saturday morning, right? Totally empty interstate. If you buy internet from us, that takes you directly to our state capital. So we tell people, this building, this beautiful RSA facility is right across the street from our state capitol building. You buy internet from us, we take you directly there, and we connect you directly to the partners that are giving us the content you consume. So one of our very first peering partners was Facebook. They make it really, really easy to peer with them through their automated portal. So we started that process. There was a little back and forth as we kind of got the plumbing for that working right within the switch fabric. But we were able to get that peering going with Facebook, which means that if you're in Centerville and you're connected to my network and you open your Facebook app, you can see that traffic going directly there with like 2 hops. It's absolutely nuts. And during peak hours, Facebook is actually our busiest peering partner. So that right there is a name that everybody in this room knows, right? We all have that angsty, social media addicted teenager that we're trying to keep happy so they don't complain to their parents and switch internet providers, right? It's that ultimate, always a network problem issue. MGMIX gives you both the narrative that you can sell to the people paying this bill and also the actually good practical experience of using an internet where you have that one-hop journey to the content that matters to you. So for us, it's a marketing move and a practical benefit move. We love it. You should peer if you haven't already. Beautiful facility, very aggressive pricing from the city, and a world-class facility. You really can't ask for more here.
Yeah. So, like Josh said, so if you Google anything, it goes through our network. If you Facebook anything, it goes through our network. All of the meta stuff, even Microsoft updates go through our network. So it is just very, very robust, and I'm building it on a platform to be elevated. So right now, this is the foundation. But with companies like Lightwave, what they're doing, I think that if we can get more ISPs in there to do the exact same thing, we can get internet out to these rural areas in the Montgomery County. So, but right now we don't have that. So that's why I'm partnering with all these companies to get last mile, to get middle mile, to get fiber out to the rural areas where we don't have right now. And if you know anything about Mayor Reed, that was part of his initiative when he first got on board, was to get internet broadband out to rural areas. And we are this close where we're already offering it to all the counties that Lightwave services. So again, but if you just want to share data, if you want to get your information on the MGMIX over to Albix, up to DC blocks, this is pretty much the linchpin to get you there in this area. So, yes, sir.
I have a question, because I'm hearing you both talk about the attributes and the benefits. What have either of you found to be maybe the larger set of challenges of getting people to adopt, to become exchange point members? What are some of those challenges you're facing day in and day out?
My biggest challenge, and I'll turn over to Josh when I'm done, but my biggest challenge is actually, situations like this where I get to tell you what we can do. I get to tell you what it's all about. I get to let you know how you can connect to whomever you need to connect to. Whatever services that you can provide, you can provide that through the IX. So the biggest challenge for me is, we don't do any marketing. The City of Montgomery does not have a marketing team. We do not have a commercial that says, hey, if you want to use the MGMIX, call this number. That's non-existent. So I'm working on trying to get a marketing team to actually market this out to the public so they can actually understand what MGMIX is, what it offers, and how you can become a member. So that's my biggest challenge. There's one more. The other part of that is a lot of companies, a lot of cities that have IXs within their city may not be owned by the city, but they have bigger companies that do donations. So another challenge is to talk to bigger companies to actually give us hardware that we need to keep it running. Right now, it's all funded by me and my budget for the City of Montgomery. So the second challenge would be getting with different companies that have hardware that would want to be a part of it and donate that hardware to us. So those are my two biggest challenges right now.
Yeah,
Josh?
I'm going to take 2 points on that. So the first one was information about what you actually need to get a presence in the MGMIX. There was a little bit of Dora the Explorer hunting for clues, or Blue's Clues hunting for clues at the beginning of our MGMIX journey. We were originally under the impression that we would need to get an agreement with the data center, rent an entire rack, work out cross connects from that rack into the meeting room, back across to the switch fabric, a whole lot of complexity. what we discovered when we got a hold of Brother Boyd here and Mr. Porterfield is that they actually offer co-location in city racks where you can skip over a lot of the bureaucratic red tape that it would normally take to get a peering connection point in this IX. So the switch fabric is exciting, don't get me wrong, but the ability to take advantage of racks that the city already has to accelerate your time to entry into that facility cannot be understated. So just off the top, I got to start there. You can get in here easier than you might think. And I would absolutely encourage you to talk to these two gentlemen after the lecture because it's really, really simple to get in here from a logistics standpoint than you might assume at first glance. The second thing is that when we started, we wanted to get peering sessions with as many networks as possible. And I asked Brother Boyd, I said, man, what would you do if you were trying to get these peering relationships? And he said, well, man, first thing you should do is get on PeeringDB and make sure your contact information is current. I thought, man, is this some kind of boomer? Yeah, I'm going to go update some database. What are we doing, right? As it turns out, that is critically important. Your PeeringDB contact information is how people like me know to get a hold of people like you to create these peering arrangements. So we hit up every email address that was published on PeeringDB. If you're in here and you're on PeeringDB and you advertise that you're in that facility, you have gotten an email from me. If you haven't seen it, you may have more than one, and it's probably in your spam folder. So we have a very much of an open peering policy. Some of the friction we had was finding the right contact information for the networks that we want to get connected to. So to give you a really practical example, we have we pretty much carry the data for most of Bibb County's government in our county. So this is ranging from the city to the jail, all these different entities, they run over our network. So naturally, there are a lot of services that we want to be able to build bridges to and get there in one hop, right? Think like court systems and state stuff and things like that. From just a continuity of government standpoint, being able to have that one-shot trip to the Capitol, we think is really, really important. But finding the people that are at the high level that can make these decisions is challenging if that information about how to reach them is not in PeeringDB. So when we're talking about things you should do when you leave here is go home, reset your password on your PeeringDB, get in there, update your information, and check your spam folder from an email from me so we can peer. If you're on there, we want to peer with you.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
Talking about getting set up in the MGMI. I mean, but you also have to have that transport circuit into the data center.
Yes,
Right.
sir, that's correct. So the good news about RSA Dexter is that it has a myriad of really good top-tier transport providers in there. So one that I'm just going to name because I love them to death and they're represented in here today is Unity Fiber. I'm going to wave at Graham back there. These guys carried, he's back, yeah, he's over there somewhere, he's hiding. These guys helped us connect our Chilton County network to the MGMIX, right? And so you have multiple large providers that are in that building that can get you there in your county. So some names you will know: C-Spire, AT&T, Spectrum, Unity. We've got our new entrants represented over here, the Alabama Fiber Network. They're currently building in my county. We're really excited about this. We have sections of our counties that are isolated from the MGMIX. These transport providers can get you there. And it's, believe me, if they're in your county, they can probably get you to RSA. So you just, instead of buying DIA at your building, you instead do what we did. We actually rehomed our network core to live at RSA Dexter. And then what we did was we ordered transport fibers to distribute that network to our spoke points, places like Jemison, places like Centerville, places like Butler, right, to actually do that last mile distribution. So that data center centric model is exciting anyway from being able to manage your network, but it's really exciting when you consider that in Alabama we now have access to this IX, that by adopting that model you're one hop too. So it just makes it easier to run things. You get a great data center to house your equipment, and you get that MGMIX connection.
Yeah, and they're probably 2 or 3 racks away from MGMIX racks, so easy to get you connected.
So let me ask you, I won't call it a tough question, but I think it's most pertinent for the members here.
Mm-hmm.
What about the IX as a provider or an IX owner or manager? What about it keeps you up at night? And then as a member of the IX, what are some things that you're lying there in bed at night going, man, if that happens, that might not be good.
Okay, so the thing about the IX that keep me up at night is, you know, when I first started back at the City of Montgomery as a CTO, there were so many, and I had it on my slide, there were so many rumors about the IX that just wasn't true. And so I'm like, well, you don't even know what it's all about. So how do you know, what are you talking about? And so, but I understood what they were talking about. I understood what they were saying because it really didn't do anything for about 9 years. It just sat there, you know, stagnant, not doing anything. So I understood where the rumors came from. But what keeps me up is, how do I change that narrative, right? How do I put things into perspective that lets you know that, okay, well, one, we're rebranding, and two, we are changing the way that we do things. It's not the same way it was before. And that is why there's some customers that were in there that are not in there now because they didn't want to conform to the new way we were doing things. But the ones that are there are okay with it. Now, fast forward to 2025. We had customers leave in 2022 and 2023. Those same customers are now on my phone talking to me about how can I get back into MGMIX. And the problem is, this also keeps me up. I only have 2 racks in MGMIX at 445 Dexter. So I'm very limited to my footprint there. I have a customer who wants to rent an entire rack. So that leaves me with a half a rack. So where do I go from there? It's like, okay, well, at 25 Washington, we're connected to 445 Dexter. I can put them there, but that's my building. And then the other part of that is, now we've rebranded, we got new customers coming back. How can I get you to understand that this is not the same internet exchange it was before? Where do I go to preach to you what we are about, how we operate, how it can benefit you? And those things kind of bother me because, like I said, the City of Montgomery never had to do this before. We never had to go out and talk about it. So it bogs my brain, and it keeps me up on what are my next steps on how to get this to the point where it is, you can see value in it and you can understand where we're going with it.
And so we are dependent here on the City of Montgomery. So I guess my number one concern would just be that the administration of the city that is running things and the City Council understands the value of the MGMIX and continues to fund it. Now, I will say this is one of those chicken and the egg problems where if you don't invest in the IX now, when it may not have everything you want, the folks that run it may not continue to fund it or make it last, right? So what you have to do is bet on the future, bet about what could be there by investing now, and by investing now, more people like me and like you will continue to hub on in that location. The more of us that do so, the more easy it is, the more compelling it is to encourage members to be in the IX. We need this in the state so badly, and I do not want our public officials in Montgomery to lose sight of that. I mean, personally, I had considered putting some pressure on our grant programs here in the state to mandate IX participation if you're going to get grant dollars. That's something I had considered, for the simple reason that if you're getting public money to build this broadband into rural America, make sure that you're also building that critical first mile and middle mile infrastructure that will actually give Alabamians a top tier internet experience. It really is not just about reaching every home, it's about reaching them with the best quality internet. Is not knowing what I don't know about what my peering partners have to offer. So in other words, you do your BGP, you set your routes up to send data to different places, you set your weights and all that to figure out where you want your data to go. We don't have a published services directory yet of who has what. So once again, we're back to Blue's Clues to figure out who's got what, with lots of experimenting to set up our BGP and our route table, right? But I can tell you just right now, there are some really interesting things you can take advantage of if you're in there that are just not published. We want to get them published. For example, if you peer with me, you have access to our speed test servers, which means that when your customers run speed tests and it picks us because they seem to have a mind of their own which one they pick, right? They're going to get really good latency numbers, which will help you compete with your competitors, right? So just off the top, cutting out that middleman and us handshaking means that when your consumers who run these speed tests like it's like a bingo machine down in Biloxi, right, they're going to see the best numbers possible because of that peering. So that's one example of services that you guys didn't know we had, and there are things that I don't know that you have, right? Here's another one that we haven't published yet. We started setting up a bunch of classic video game servers for games that are like fallen out of style. A good example is classic Battlefront 2004, right? Who's playing that still? We are. And we set up a server for that that is paired with Hurricane Electric down at the IX. One of the things that surprised us was how we then developed a reputation on the internet for having the lowest ping game server for this old game because of that Hurricane Electric pier in Montgomery. So you're like, whoa, where'd that come from, right? We don't publish that yet. We want to see eventually where you can go to the MGMIX, see a list of partners, see what services they offer in addition to their regular residential or commercial traffic that they're bringing you. Again, we get better routes when we know who has what to offer. And right now we don't do a good job of trading that data. So like that conversation about a Slack or a Discord for our Alanog, we would welcome that with open arms because it's going to foster that collaboration that doesn't exist today.
You took the conversation to a space I'd like to spend some time on. You talked about
Sure.
the vision.
Yes.
So Porterfield, as the city, as the owner of the IX, could you talk about your vision, the city's vision a year from now, 5 years from now, and then Josh, as a customer, what would be some of your visions in terms of how you maybe want to more fully, so your question would be two-part. How would you want to more fully leverage current infrastructure, current operation, modes of operating, and then maybe if you had a wish list, what do you wish a path that the IX might take? So Porterfield, maybe you first.
Okay. So my vision for the IX is to extend the fabric of it as far as I possibly can. We're extending over to Auburn. We're working on our extension over to DC blocks. My next stop from there would be Huntsville. And then from Huntsville will be Nashville or Chattanooga, which one? I'm not sure, but I would like to have this fabric of MGMIX extended to every possible internet exchange in the Southeast region and even further. So that's my vision. And I'm working that vision very slowly. I mean, it's a slow burn, but because I'm running the IT department as well, I just don't have a team to run the IX. So if I can get it up to the point where, all right, you see this fabric going all over the Southeast region, now the next part of that goal, the next part of that vision would be to bring as many customers as I possibly can. And that means you guys becoming members of the IX. So that's my vision.
So, yes, sir.
So I got a question about the IX. Who's actually managing the IX? Not the City of Montgomery, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
It is the City of Montgomery.
so what's NTT's role in the engineering?
NTT Data?
Yeah.
They manage the floor. They manage the access. They manage the racks. But the equipment and what goes in there, that's managed by the City of Montgomery. So, I mean, we have a NTT Data rep back there, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me a tour one time.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Tony, I want to give you a shout out. You and I have never met except by email and John O.
Yes, sir.
Last October. Yeah, we've got a connection.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Last October, we had a problem with our Facebook traffic.
Yes, sir.
By way of YouTube, we figured out y'all helped us figure out the problem.
Right.
And you found a solution on time.
You're very welcome, Mike. And what he's talking about, so your network traffic for Facebook goes through our IX, right? So I had a problem with Google. They were actually taking up 85% of our bandwidth, and at the time we had a 1 gig connection. So Google was 85% of the bandwidth. Facebook was pretty much to a crawl, and so I asked Google. I said, "Look, I need to move your equipment to a different location." They never got back with me, so I shut the connection down to like 10 megs. And I knew I was going to get a reaction at that point, but I had no idea I was getting ready to mess your traffic up. So what we did was, once I got in touch with you, realized what was going on, you gave me a few days. I really appreciate that. And what we did was, Google got back with me. And since then, I've increased to a 100 meg pipe there. So we should be good from now on. So, but yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I got to tag that point right there. I can't leave that hanging. So we're back to that fiercely rugged conversation again about being able to manage our own needs when it comes to interfacing with these large companies. If you are trying to go through your DIA provider or your IP transit provider, you're like a step away. Like you can't deal directly with them if you don't have the right contacts. But when you go through the MGMIX and you have a hiccup with someone like Facebook, you have a local guy, he's real, he's the real dude, I can shake his hand, he's here, that can interface with these people and resolve these problems. That alone, you cannot put a price tag on. You just can't do it. We have an issue with Facebook, he's able to resolve it because he's got that relationship with them.
Right.
Unbelievably valuable. To Tony's question, so my background is actually not networking. It's software. I got drug into this world kicking and screaming out of necessity. But I'm approaching this as a software engineer when I look at this specific question, which is, where could the MGMIX go that would put us on a different strata? And I'm going to touch on two things. The first one is AI, which is all the buzz right now. Part of what makes a compelling AI experience is that low latency between you and the AI service that you're interacting with. The lower the latency, the better. The other issue that was mentioned earlier in this conversation is that buying these AI appliances is very, very prohibitively expensive for most people. I think I share the comments back there with Central Access, they're our neighbor, that was mentioning that cost of entry is prohibitive for doing it locally in your own facility, right? Well, there's an economy of scale to this. If the MGMIX is able to bring those kind of public use AI appliances to RSA, all of us members would have access to that at reduced costs because we're operating at scale, right? So just off the top, we need to get on that train, and we have a very good foundation to do that there, and we need to double down. The second thing is, yes sir, back there in the back.
It lives today in the Albix Data Center, 2 DGX A100s under the Alabama AI Center of Excellence are on a 100 gig port to Tony's. We're representing the Montgomery Internet Exchange at Albix. We've got 2 DGX A100s. We've already bridged the gap of the education because of the training and also the access to anybody that chooses to be a member.
So,
Both private and public partnership. So we've trained up over 400 academia from Tuskegee, Alabama State, AUM, Auburn, University of Alabama is joining ACE. South Alabama is actively running research on ACE. Tuskegee's running research. And the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine is running research, all in the state of Alabama, on NVIDIA equipment, and it doesn't leave the state.
so yeah,
That is an example that we are an application that now gets to your customers through your last mile, not traversing 56 Marietta and transacting a Georgia tax. We keep it within the state of Alabama.
yeah, so remember I said this keeps me up at night about not knowing who has what in the building? There's your example one right there. I literally had no idea that was there until now.
Yeah.
So we have an education problem, again, about who has what. I didn't even know that was there, right?
AFN has 400 gig internet access at Albix. We're one of their home sites through the state. They actually are providing 100 gig access to every Alabama Community College system, and we will be directly on net to them, providing access to platforms with private companies offering their best protocols and best models that they choose to share, as well as NVIDIA training.
Game changing. I can't even begin to emphasize how important that is, and we got to build those bridges. Yes, sir, in the back.
So are you guys providing list services to your customers?
Yes, sir, and I would absolutely advise hanging out for the next talk because you'll find few things that I'm more passionate about than this. And we have a whole setup table over here, and I brought the nerds with me to talk through some of this. So hang out. Yes, sir, we're a WISP, and we can't wait to show it off.
Yeah.
Are you guys a member of WISPA?
Yes, we are a member of WISPA, and I've thrown my hat in the ring for the state chairman. So cross your fingers, hoping to get it. We'll see what happens there. The other piece, so AI is one piece, right? But connectivity to the AI services is the other piece of the conversation. So I'm going to tease what we're about to talk about at my next lecture is that getting all of these IoT devices and cameras and all of these things that are going to feed the Skynet usually requires a mobility core. And we're going to get into the lecture about what this is, what it does, why it's important. Mobility cores are traditionally very difficult to build, and once you get them, they're extremely expensive to build, actually. I would love to see the MGMIX have one of these on rack, where people that are wanting to lease one of these EPCs to dip their toes into mobility for things like private 5G and private LTE, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They simply get that BGP peering going, get access to that LTE/5G core, and get off to the races deploying IoT and broadband applications. Those are two things we have to do. AI and mobility they are going to shape the next 20 years of technology.
I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
How does that help emergency management services?
Good question. So traditional Wi-Fi, and again, talk about this in the lecture at length because I'll nerd out about this.
Yeah.
Traditional Wi-Fi, and actually fiber too, is limited in that it's hard to get it to everything that you need to get it to, right? So fiber can give you everything in the kitchen sink in terms of speed and capacity, but it would be very expensive to build fiber, for example, to cameras on your highway every 5 miles. It can be done, but it's very, very expensive. With LTE, or 5G, you are able to put equipment on towers and have cell radiuses that are 5 and 10 miles. More importantly, through dense trees. So I live in Bibb County. We are blessed to have the Oak-Mulgee National Forest in our backyard. It is a pristine forest. It is a lovely forest. It is also a killer of wireless internet signal. And those same kind of forests exist across the state where you have dense trees, difficult terrain. LTE allows you to get the devices on net, even in places like that, where traditional means even Starlink has a difficult time doing it because of canopy cover. LTE and 5G gives you a door. Again, hang out in the lecture. Can't wait to explore that a little bit further.
Okay. And one more thing, Boyd. So my plans for the IX, some of it I do keep close to my chest because I only give that to members who want to join. But I'm gonna share a little bit with you today. And I'm in the process of working with, like Dell is a partner of ours. I'm in the process of working with Dell to create 3 512 terabyte storage racks. So if you want to actually run servers from our IX, you will be able to do that. And one will be located at 445 Dexter, one will be located at 25 Washington Avenue, and then another will be located in Birmingham. So those are plans. Those are actually, it's a big footprint to run VMs, et cetera, whatever you want to put out there. So I just wanted to share that with you, want to share it with you as well. So, if you guys are planning on, using SaaS, feel free to talk to me. I can tell you how you can benefit from being a member of IX and run your service from our IX. And it's backed up, by the way, so.
I will, just real quick, I do have a long form article that you can read where I've kind of stated my case on the MGMIX. It's at joshlambert.xyz/MGMIX. So hopefully that's real simple to remember. If you can't remember, come see me after it and I'll scribble it down for you on a napkin. But I called it decentralizing the internet because getting these IXs going is hearkening back to the original vision of the internet, which is a resilient, robust communications grid that helps our state operate at its best and our businesses operate at its best and residents have the best possible internet experience. So get in that IX. joshlambert.xyz/MGMIX.
If you register, we'll make sure that you get the link to this information.
Thank you, Brother Boyd.
We've got time for one more question. And I'll accept that challenge of disseminating information, who's doing what.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the NOG is about, right?
Yeah.
One more question before we take a 5-minute break and queue up for the last lecture for the day. One more question. Any other questions? Going once, going twice? Thank you both.